All right, guys, I had to go live for this one. Mack Brown has been fired from North Carolina. This came out a little bit earlier today. I know I told you guys there was not going to be a show at least today, or I'll never show during the week. But I had to get on top of this. This was a sort of a breaking news, and didn't think this is going to happen. But in the words of Homer Simpson, here we are. Um, I'm going to go through my thoughts on North Carolina, Mack Brown's really tenure in North Carolina and sort of his little history, sort of my thoughts on his coaching career in general. Then I'll sort of move into the North Carolina job versus what it has been. Then I'll move on to what I think the future is for North Carolina football. If you're new here, yes, this is a emergency podcast for Verticals Extra here. Again, we don't usually go live during the day like this. I told you guys on Sunday night I was not going to do a show until a week from today, but at last, here we are. So, emergency podcast. If you're new here, listening to this on the Spotify replay live right now, I'm sure there's no one watching right now, but make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's free. Nothing happens. I don't, knock on the door, say, hey, subscribe, or I don't come to your house and force you to sign anything or anything like that. It's completely free. I don't force you to sign anything. I don't force you to give me money. That's up to you, but it's completely free. So subscribe on the YouTube channel, subscribe on Spotify, follow me on Twitter at @4first_pod. Again, this is not my traditional studio here. I'm at a undisclosed location. As you can tell, the microphone is also probably not the best quality, but hopefully it works. It gets the point across. But anyway, again, if you're new here, again, make sure you're subscribed. We are a recording channel. We just started the YouTube thing. We're not new to Spotify. Been doing this for technically the main show's over 50 episodes, but this is not count. This is a Four Verticals Extra pod. So anyway, with the boilerplate stuff out of the way, let's actually get into this. Let's bite into it like a sandwich. Yes, Mack Brown is fired. This came out earlier today from a lot of sources, and the school confirmed it earlier. Mack Brown put out a statement. School put out a statement. He is coaching, by the way, throughout finishing the entire season in bowl game, but he is not returning. So what do I think of Mack Brown as a coach? I think Mack Brown, when we look at him historically, is one of the best coaches we have in college football currently. Now he's still the coach right now technically, but he'll be out the door once the season ends for them, and that includes a bowl game. I think he's obviously very successful. This is his second stint in North Carolina. Before that, he was at Texas in between his stints in North Carolina off, so that's the one that he's known for. With Vince Young, several famous players, Cole McCoy. I can go on the whole list, but you know who they are. Didn't end well at Texas, sort of unofficially fired. He resigned technically, but I think we all know he was fired. Took a break, went to TV for a while, was doing the SEC Thursday night games back when that was a thing, and then the conference said no. I have never had a chance to sit down with Mack Brown personally. I don't know him personally. He's not a friend of the program. He's not coming on later or whatever. So I don't know him personally. I have seen interviews of him. Josh Page speaker series. I know Josh will be on later. I will be listening to him along with the rest of you. I'm sure he will echo the sentiments I'm about to say, in that he seems like a nice guy to be around. Seems like a very fun person to be around, that generally cares about the sport of football. So Mack Brown, the person, I can't criticize. Now, again, I can't say I know who he is personally, because, again, I never talked to him. He had never interviewed him before. But from what I've seen of him in interviews and through, like press conferences and whatnot, and him on TV, back when he was on TV for a number of years before he came back into coaching, seems like a good guy. Seems like generally a person that would be your grandfather, right? Sit down, have beer with him on Thanksgiving or Christmas, and, talk for hours and hours, and stories that, range over, most of your lives. And since you've been alive, most of you listening to this, and up and including me talking. So Mack Brown, the person, I can't criticize. Though the head coach, Mack Brown, look, he won a national championship. He made it to another one. Lost that one to Bama. Things fell apart at Texas. A lot of it was recruiting, and things in the program got kind of stale. He got backed out, and we've seen what Texas has been since then, a revolving door of coaches. They get Sark. They finally begin to have some consistency and finally some hope there. And, of course, Sark has done great things there. Then Mack was on TV. Then he goes to North Carolina, has two actually not first-round draft picks, but one first-round draft pick in Drake May, another good quarterback in Sam Howell, waste both. Um, I can't defend that. Both of those quarterbacks were, frankly, college football playoff quality quarterbacks. I think Bud Elliott said it back this time, or not this time last year, but last year during the spring in 2023 season. This is going to Drake May's final year. Last year, there in North Carolina, when the rumors of him transferring to Bama, I think Bud Elliott was correct. I think if he transferred, he being Drake May, did transfer, end up going through with the transfer to Bama, I think he would have won the national championship. That's how good he was, I think, as a college quarterback. And Mack Brown wasted him. Defenses were not good enough. You saw it in the James Madison um, sort of example A of defensive performances that were pretty poor, to say the least. I know he had Gene Chizik there for that was his second stint. Gene's second stint there. He was with the previous administration, which is kind of weird. But he went back anyway. The bottom line is defense was the frailty for him. It wasn't good enough. The product overall, especially with the talent at quarterback and some of the talent and recruiting they got, just wasn't good enough for what North Carolina fans wanted him. And some of the industry have echoed that. I know North Carolina is much like similar to Kentucky, the basketball school. Clearly, you need football to sort of shepherd fans until like November, December. That's sort of the responsibility for football and most of these basketball centric schools. Think Kentucky, think Purdue, think most years Indiana historically, sometimes Michigan State. That's what those programs are for football. Just to carry over for basketball, sort of shepherd them in, make sure they don't lose interest in athletics. That's what they are. There's no real way to defend that. I don't blame them for doing that. But so that's my opinion on sort of what the program was. It was good, but not good enough. You had one high level draft pick and a decent quarterback that I don't remember off the top of my head if he's in the league or not, Sam Howell. But to put it bluntly, he wasted them. Mack Brown wasted them. And I can defend that. Again, defense was horrible. At times, he got rid of the staff last year, brought in Jeff Collins, thought it was getting better, but then the just disgrace of football game was the James Madison game. And I believe that's who it was, right? James Madison. Let me double check here just to make sure that's correct. Should have known this off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, James Madison. Oh, man, that's gross. So that's my thoughts on Mack Brown's tenure there. Just if I was to use a phrase to describe it, good, but not good enough given the talent that is there. Now let's talk about the future because that's what everyone's worried about, right? I'm sure that's what Josh Pates talked about. That's what the folks on Cover 3 talked about earlier when I listened to them earlier. So what is the future of North Carolina? Well, what is the future? This to me is a high quality job. Now, a lot of you are going to cringe at that. A lot of you are going to go, what are you talking about, Josh? What are you talking about? North Carolina is not a quality job. Well, it is. You can certainly win there. There's no rule in the Constitution, United States Constitution, that says, oh, you can't win football games in North Carolina. Well, they've done it before. Larry Fedora, as much as people have crapped on him, and I'm surely one. I'm one of them too. I did not like how he handled himself towards the end of his tenure there, both on the field and off the field. Won 11 games. Mack Brown did it back in the 80s, so it's not impossible to do this. And I think Josh Pate mentioned this on Twitter earlier, and I'm sure he'll explain this more later in his show later about how North Carolina, Texas A&M, and Arizona State, sort of the same thing where it's like, man, if they just got the coaching hire right, those places would be, utopian societies. Look at Texas A&M right now and Mike Elko. Jimbo Fisher was dragging that thing down and a lot of other external things. All of a sudden, oh man, Texas A&M is right in the mix of the SEC title game race. So what's up? What's up with that? Arizona State, Herm Edwards, fire him. The violations. Kenny Dillingham comes there. Last year was what it was. You get rid of some players. This year you bring in Sam Leavitt, and then all of a sudden, man, Arizona State's on their way to Dallas probably for the Big 12 championship game. Man, isn't that something? Well, it doesn't have to always be dysfunctional. These programs, and this goes for any program, right? Any sort of B tier, C tier team. If I was to do tiers, North Carolina, Arizona State, Texas A&M's the exception because they have a lot of money, they have the facilities, just the coaching hires have been good enough. But for Arizona State and North Carolina in terms of football programs are pretty quality jobs. The quality of the job, not the program what it's been lately. The program as it's been lately has not been necessarily the most stable. I just said that earlier. I think Mack did a good job, but not a great enough job there based on the talent that he's been getting, and not to mention the quarterbacks they had there. That's not the quality of the job. The job is attracted to candidates, and as a candidate, you want it to be attractive, and you're not worried about what they have done in the past, you're worried about, can I be the first big guy? Can I be sort of, what's the best way to put this? Sort of like Kirk Cinetti's doing at Indiana right now. Like, I can be the first guy that can fill up the trophy case that's been, cobwebbed, and there's a tumbleweed passing by and there's maybe a few shelves are missing. I can be the first coach that can do something meaningful there. Just because the program hasn't been something in the past doesn't mean it can't be something in the future. It's the can not versus have not that Josh Pate's always talked about, and I completely agree with him on that. It's the can not versus have not. North Carolina has not been able to hire the right guy to lead the program successfully in a consistent manner. Mack Brown was brought in. He, kept them above 500. Got into some bowl games. Wasn't good enough to compete in the ACC. Got to the ACC championship game. Didn't win it. And I also think, too, with what North Carolina then making this decision now and just saying, look, we're getting rid of him. We're not going to pull, Les Miles in circa 2015 where it looks like he's getting fired. And then Les Miles goes, oh, I'll be quicker than that. It's like the guy from the State Farm commercial. I think North Carolina showed today that they're serious about football, or at least serious about trying to win. North Carolina in the past wouldn't have done this. They would have waited to the end of the year, and who knows, maybe they would have been like, you know what, Mack Brown's come back for another year. Why not? They got serious. And in terms of candidates, I'm not going to keep this too long because I have the rest of my day to go through because it is Thanksgiving week. We'll say this here as we sort of wrap this up here. Again, if you're watching this live, again, thank you for watching this live. On the replay for watching this, thank you for watching this. And if you're listening on Spotify too, thank you. Make sure you leave a 5-star review on Spotify, subscribe on both that and the YouTube channel, and make sure you leave a comment too and like the videos. As for candidates, as we sort of get to know each other here over the next, especially with coaching searches, I don't like to get into candidates that much because it's really hard to narrow that down. And plus you have agents, Jimmy Sexton and all of this and that and the other, and, flight tracker stuff, which, by the way, guys, flight tracker is a pizza. It's basically now it's a piece of crap. I'm like, don't buy into that. It was fun and cute back in the early 2000s, but it's not relevant anymore. Like, people can hide tail numbers. There's workaways, there's workarounds that universities and administrations have found out, and they've implemented those. So don't use flight tracker. I mean, I know it's for clicks and stuff and engagement, but don't trust them. They're not sources. And another thing too, when it comes to getting sources of information for coaching hires and firings, trust people. Like, find trusted sources. Don't go to go to Timmy's college football website. Don't go to any of these weird Twitter accounts or whatever that are clearly not college football media person or journalist. Just find someone. It's sort of like I'm talking about, like I'm a meteorologist, trying to convince you to find a legit meteorologist, especially with the weather theories and stuff going around, the hurricane stuff. But anyway, just find a trust source. Find a trusted source. A couple of ones that I trust. Bruce Feldman's obviously a pretty good one. He's been sort of, the guy, or, the guy that has been very, very good for coaching hires, especially, he's been at Fox for a long time. Bruce, he's on the Rich Heisman show. So if you don't know who Bruce Feldman is, like, that's who he is. He's the college ball guy that goes on the Rich Heisman's show sometimes on the Roku channel. That would be a source that I would recommend you follow, especially if you want really good college football information. Again, don't go to any of these, coaching people who, or at least people who claim to be coaching, I don't know what you call them, coaching reporters, but they're not. So Feldman's one, Pete Thamel's another one. Again, a lot of folks, a lot of people, at least who I know, don't really like Pete Thamel. He does a good job what he does. He's been doing it for a long time. He's like the Adam Scheffner of college football. So Thamel, Feldman, a couple of others that I would also consider. Guys like Chris Lowe at ESPN, very, very good. Brandon Marcello, by the way, at 247, another good source of information as well. Dennis Dodd, I guess, as well. Ross Dellinger is another good one as well. I'm just scrolling through Twitter. So yeah, those are sort of the ones. They're probably the best two I would recommend, being Thamel and Feldman. Those are the two guys I would trust with my heart. Like, if those two are doctors and they're actual doctors, I'll trust them to save my life. Like, that's how much I trust those guys and their information. Like, they're good for a reason. That's why they're hired. Feldman's with Fox, and Thamel was at Yahoo, and I was with ESPN. Like those guys are the most wired in people. So if you want to get sources of information, those are the two guys for coaching searches, especially for in the P4 coaching realm. So again, if you see rumors from spam accounts or whatever, or random college football accounts who are not legitimate journalists or reporters who don't have good background sources and whatnot, like don't rely on them. Like just be careful of that. But in terms of candidates, again, I don't dive in that type of stuff. I'm not going to put out a hot board list on Twitter. I will recommend, or at least a name, just in general, a very generalized name here. If I were to give you a very generalized name for any job, that's John Summerall at Tulane. Summerall, Josh Payton been a big fan of his. In fact, he was the first one that got me into him, or at least introduced me to him, I guess, in a way. Like, not literally, but through his show. Summerall, coached at Kentucky. I think he played there too. He's from Alabama, north of Alabama, that area near Nashville. Coaching the SEC for a long time. Was at Troy for a while. Amazing coach at Troy. Like, he never had a losing season, 10 wins plus. Now he's at Tulane now, taking over for Willie Fritz. I think he's, at the very least, that team is the second best, or if not the best, G5 team in the country. That's a legit machine. Not Bert Kreischer, the machine, but different type of machine. But John Summerall as a coach for any P4 job, I'll be keeping an eye on. Not saying he's guaranteed to get the North Carolina job, just to back up here again. I'm not saying he's going to get the job. I'm just saying, just from a generic standpoint, John Summerall is a guy that I would be paying attention to, at least as a name, as a general name for any coaching search going on, even in the G5 too, to a certain extent. I would just keep an eye on that name. That's it. That's the only name I can really say would be one that I would be happy with if I was a North Carolina fan, because I know how, at least from the people I've heard from, how intense he is, and he's attention to detail. Again, he's SEC based. He's learned from the best coaches, Mark Stoops and whatnot, and he's been around for a while too. So I would keep an eye on his name for any coaching search in the P4, especially, not just UNC. If any other jobs open up, we can speculate to that at a different time. But at the moment, the North Carolina job is open, so get your resumes and cover letters ready. Go apply, I guess, accordingly. But that's my reaction to this job opening. Want to get ahead of this a little bit just before some other big shows got to it. Wasn't able to get to it before Cover 3 did, but I was able to beat Josh Payton on it. So that says something about Pate. Just kidding, Pate. Josh, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. There. But yeah, that's it kind of for the stream here. Just want to do a little quick stream real quick. Again, if you're new here, we don't usually do these off the cuff, but with big news like the Bryce Underwood thing and the Billy Napier, him staying, and this news, you will see me just a lot. Hopefully this will be the only time we do it this week, and then we'll be back to the regular schedule next week with 2 shows a week. But this week, if you missed the show on Sunday, it's available now. It's also on Spotify. I was late on that. I apologize for that, but didn't have really a chance to get that uploaded and whatnot, but I was able to this morning, thankfully. So it's available now, but it's also on YouTube as well. So until next Tuesday, have a great Thanksgiving. So that's in a couple days. So if you're in the United States, have a good time with that. Enjoy the rest of your, I guess, holiday week. Enjoy the games this weekend too. I will do a full reaction on Tuesday. Then we'll get into championship week. So it's almost here. It's hard to imagine too. Excuse me, we're already at every week, and here we are talking about a championship weekend as well. So again, until next Tuesday, have a great Thanksgiving. If you're listening to this in the United States, I'm sure most of you are. If not, then I guess enjoy the rest of your week. So